Hey guys, Metal360 Reviews here, back with another video. Fun fact about today's video is I'd already recorded this yesterday and uploaded it to YouTube, but somebody pointed out that the audio wasn't working, so this video would have been out sooner, but I do apologize, I had some technical issues. Now, today we're going to be keeping with the Slipknot theme, but today we're going to be moving on to the second album, which is my favorite one, which is the Iowa era. As you can see, there isn't as much to talk about with this era as compared to my self-titled video, but I really love this era, so I feel very passionate about it. So move on to the first CD, which is the original artwork for Iowa. As you can see, it's very shiny in the back. Now, overall, this is my favorite Slipknot album. It was the album that really solidified heavy music for me, and even though I listened to stuff like Infant Annihilator and the Black Dahlia Murder, I still consider this to be one of the heaviest albums I own, and it's definitely one of the darkest. So to get into it to show you guys, here is the CD itself, and the back of the lyric book. Now to pull it out and show you guys, the lyric book I think for the original version is awesome. So, first of all we have the art, then to fold it out. As you can see, it's this very weird, I believe, type of grease paper material, which has pictures of the band as well as the lyrics printed on them. So every member of the band. And then to show you the inside, there is a very nice promotional picture of Slipknot right here. Now overall, another thing that really solidifies Iowa as my favorite era for Slipknot as well was just the looks. The looks I find to me are a lot more dark and dingy than the self-titled era, and just the overall imagery, while around the same, I found it to be a lot more disturbing. For example, here. So, as I said, this is definitely probably my favorite version of Iowa, mainly just because of the reflectiveness, as you'll see. And not all the lyrics for it are on there. The actual title track itself, Iowa, is on here. And if we move the disc, we have a very nice disturbing image. I'm not overly sure what that is, but it's obviously a fetus of some kind. Then, to move on to the track listing of this album, I'd be surprised if anybody who's watched this didn't know. It is 515, People Equal Shit, Disaster Pieces, My Plague, Everything Ends, The Heretic Anthem, Gently, Left Behind, The Shape, I Am Hated, Skin Ticket, New Abortion, Metabolic, and then the title track itself, Iowa. So to move on to the second one, this is the oil splatter variant of it. It's typically called amongst the community from what I've gathered. Now overall I don't like this version as much. It's not really shiny, as you can see. Overall it's the same imagery, but a fun fact to note is the back is actually flipped, as you can see. And another thing to note is the discs themselves are not the disc and the lyric book, sorry, are not shiny either. It's quite, this one, while you know it's the same thing, I don't find this version as appealing, and the main reason is coming up now inside the lyric book itself, actually. So whereas the other one had this cool, quite reflective bit inside, no such thing here. And obviously, as you can see, it's laid out quite differently. Now it still has the fold out of the band, but not as nice in my opinion. Another thing I noticed is this quality of it is actually a lot worse compared to the inside of the other one. And this one's just laid out a lot worse in my opinion too. Now to get this out again and show you, well yes, obviously the images aren't as great because they are from 2001. Take for example Joey's picture. Look how much lower quality Joey's is. Now some people could argue this makes Slipknot more look like what they are, but overall for me it just doesn't do it. It still has the same picture and everything, but overall I don't know, this lyric book version to me doesn't feel as good. It just, I feel like it loses a lot of what this era of Slipknot stood for with stuff like this. And overall, the quality of that lyric book suffers as a whole because the images on it are a lot worse, which is truly a shame. I think if they'd done this version a bit better, for example, they'd made it so it was shiny like the other one. Yeah, it would have been a lot more interesting, perhaps, to look at. But another difference is the inside of this. Now, overall, this isn't too much of a difference. I like this is something I like more about this version is the color in this one when compared to the original. Now, once again, the images are flipped. Overall, I don't know why I prefer this color for it than this one. This one, while yes, it looks sickly, I think this one looks a bit more disgusting because it looks like it's just been freshly taken out. I suppose you could say. Now, overall, as far as I'm aware, this is the only two artworks for it outside of the Japanese edition, but overall the Japanese edition is only slightly different. But then to move on to the single I have for it, this is the Left Behind single. This is actually what got me into collecting properly for Slipknot. Before, my original goal with Slipknot was just to get the original versions of the albums. You know, if there was a deluxe edition with All Hope Is Gone, for example, it would just be get the original, get a copy of the deluxe, and that would be it. It was the same with every era, basically, but I got this off a friend, and this is this is where my addiction started. Because of this, I started looking more into the singles and stuff they had produced, and it spiraled from there. So, overall, some very nice simplistic artwork with the logo here and Left Behind. Mine still has the original sticker on it. I don't know how many out there still do. And to move on to the back, once again, it's the image of the goat, as you can see here. And of course, yeah, that was the main centralization of this album's theme, was goats. Why, I'm not too sure. I'm assuming that there are probably a fair amount of goats in Iowa based off this. But the track listing for this is Left Behind, Liberate and Surfacing. And if you put this into a DVD player, then it has the Left Behind music video. Now to move on to the inside. A bit more of the goat's horn and then some writing. Then the disc itself. Now, the interesting thing about this disc is it appears a lot more orange on camera than it does in person. Around the ring actually it's more pink than it is actually purple, which I find quite an interesting difference on camera. And then a lovely image of Slipknot, probably one of my favourites. But there are 3 singles for this era, and this is one of them. The other one is the Resident Evil single, the Resident Evil remix of My Plague, which is called the New Abuse Mix, and the Heretic Anthem. And the Heretic Anthem was released before they knew the name of the album, but then they subsequently changed it. If I do manage to get my hands on them, I will probably end up doing a review on them at some point as sort of a, I suppose you could say, updated history at some point. So now to move on to the next piece. I believe this is my original, I'm not too sure on if it's original or not, but I believe it is because of the sticker, original copy of Disaster Pieces. My favourite thing that Slipknot has ever released in terms of DVDs. Just some very simplistic artwork on the front and on the back. And on the back it says, Live Behind the Scenes Uncut. 15 songs live, performed at the London Arena, covered by over 30 cameras. Be there as Slipknot prepare for the show, and witness the havoc on stage firsthand. And the first interesting thing to notice about this is, around the time this was actually the only place you could really listen to Purity, as obviously it was taken off the self-titled, so unless you owned a copy, there was not much chance of hearing it. But overall, this is very interesting. They actually play it live. The weird thing about it is they had to take it off the record, but they could still play it live. I don't know whether that was in a act of defiance per se or not, but now to show off the inside. Very simplistic discs with some very nice photos of the band behind. Now to show off the discs more closely. It's got their name and obviously the Slipknot logo. And then, as you can see, some nice pictures on the inside. And then the second disc, I like the colour in this one more personally than the black disc, but either way, both are nice. With some more photos of the band. Now, as I said, this is probably my favourite thing that Slipknot have ever released in terms of DVDs, because the sound quality on this is amazing. Overall, I love the set list for it, and it's just an amazing thing. If you haven't watched this, I recommend that it is. I recommend you do it. It is probably the best live thing Slipknot has ever recorded. Now to show off the inside, to start with the front, it's got their logo and their people equal shit. And overall, this is just it's just a montage of photos of the band during the performance. Now overall, the next bit I was kind of umming and ahhing to include, but I decided to include it anyway because technically it is Iowa, even if it is the anniversary edition. Now the one thing to note straight off the bat is this has significantly different artwork than these two versions, but obviously it still centers around the goat. Now this was a big release. This is actually 3 CDs instead of just the one. As you can see, very nice, very nice, very good. This costs 3 CDs, as I previously said. The only difference with Iowa itself is it has the New Abuse mix, which is from Resident Evil. It's got Disaster Pieces on DVD, but I'm not too sure if it's just audio. I'm not too sure if it's just audio or if you put it into a DVD player, it actually plays it. This one does actually come with a DVD called Go, which is a full-length film directed by Clown, documenting the entire Iowa era cycle. I've watched it, it's very interesting, and I believe it's on YouTube if nobody owns a copy of it. There is also music videos, which is Left Behind, My Plague, People Equal Shit Live, and the Heretic Anthem Live. Now to get into properly showing it off. Obviously the imagery from... No, obviously it's not shiny, but I still think it looks nice that they included it. And then skinned goat's head. Now to show off the discs themselves. I actually like these discs because of the purple on them. Purple is one of my favourite colours. Overall it's very simplistic, yet very effective. Now this is the one where the lyric book changed the most. Just down to the artwork has a decomposing goat's head, and the same on the back, just as a different view. Now this one is more laid out like your, I suppose you can say, conventional lyric book, with photos of the band. This time they're not butchered, this time they actually look nice and you can properly admire them if you want to. As well as the lyrics for it being sprinkled inside with a few extra bits, such as that. Now, overall, I'm not particularly sure what happened with the quality of... Oh, there's this one. Now, overall, I'm not too sure what caused the quality drop in the release of this. I wish I could answer you guys, but overall, I don't know. So, as I've said, this is my favourite era of Slipknot, and I think it definitely comes across that way. Just the overall dark, depressing theme of Iowa to me is incredible, and this in the very nearly ended Slipknot, and subsequently I'm glad it didn't, but the music that came from this era because of it was incredible. And overall, I would recommend, if you haven't checked this legendary album out, I recommend you all do. Thank you guys for watching. Next video is going to be on Volume 3, the Subliminal Verses, and I will see you in the next video.